My next Royal Caribbean cruise will be my 100th cruise. So, have I learned anything after 100 cruises on Royal Caribbean? I think so. So, I'm going to be sharing about 9 or so different, real big takeaways about cruising today and how I look at it. So, number one is the room type really doesn't matter as much as it seems. What I mean by that is outside of like capacity restraints, like if you need a room for 4 people, of course, well, then you need a room for 4 people. But that being said, all things being equal, if you're just talking about inside versus balcony versus suites, honestly, I feel like after 100 cruises, they're more or less interchangeable, that I really don't think it makes a ginormous difference that you should always get one over the other. I mean, certainly, I love staying in a suite, but I really don't have a problem with an inside room, or a balcony, or even an ocean view room. After so many cruises, I've certainly spent enough time in all these cabins. And while suites are amazing, and inside rooms are small, and balcony rooms are right in the middle over there, but they do cost more than an inside room, I can justify it any way you want it. And that's truly the way that I look at it now, is that basically if you say, Matt, should I stay in an inside cabin? I can come up with 7 reasons why you should stay in an inside room. And then if you turn around and say, Matt, why should I get a balcony? I come up with 7 better reasons why you should stay in a balcony room. Like, it's just relative. And ultimately, I think for most people, there may be one reason or another to book one. Like if you're in Alaska, a balcony makes a lot of sense for the sightseeing. If you're celebrating a honeymoon, a suite might make a lot of sense because you want to do something special. So, of course, you're listening to this and thinking, okay, Matt, well, what cabin should I book or what cabin will you book? And I'm really more of an opportunist. When I book any cruise, I select the sailing probably first, either for the destination or for the ship itself, and I'll look at the prices. And it's kind of like NFL draft day. You find out what's the best option left on the table that fits into your budget. And sometimes I'll say, oh, wow, the price for a balcony is like barely more than a inside. I'll go for it, or even a suite for that matter. And other times I'll say, yikes, the pricing is really crazy. You know what? An inside room is totally fine, especially if I'm going by myself or if I'm just sharing the cabin with just me and my wife. Really, I don't need to get as big of a room. It's nice to get the bigger cabins for sure, but I really do believe that you can make an argument for any particular cabin type out there and justify it however you want to look at it. So it's less like you're making a inherent mistake by booking one over the other, even if it's your first cruise. I truly believe you can make an argument for any of them. So that's why I say, starting off, that rooms just don't matter as much as it may seem. Number two is don't sweat the small things. And I still suffer with this one a little bit. And that is, you got to be flexible with your cruise. I mean, there are going to be things that are going to go wrong. Maybe something doesn't work the way you expect it. Maybe your shore excursion gets canceled. Maybe the weather doesn't cooperate. Maybe the show you wanted to see is all booked up. Maybe your kids are being a pain in the butt and more so than normal. There are things you can't control, and things that will, I don't want to say ruin your cruise, but certainly could put a damper on them. And for that reason, I really think it's important to be flexible and don't sweat the small things. Don't let your fixed plans dictate what makes your cruise good or not. When I was recently on Oasis of the Seas, we had a situation where I had this amazing catamaran booked up for the day in St. Martin, and then it was canceled because of the weather. And I was really like upset about it, like not like mad or angry, like depressed, like kind of like it really put a damper on my plans. And I really felt like it wasn't anybody's fault, it's just bad weather, but it really did, had the potential to ruin certainly my day because I just felt sorry for myself. And the reality is, after a good nap, I realized that you just can't let it do that. Like, make the best of what you can do and control. And when you go on a cruise, there are going to be things that are not going to go in your way. And over the years, that has been an ongoing lesson that I have to be reminded of, quite frankly, even sometimes from my wife, says, listen, okay, we're not going to be able to do the thing we want to do. It stinks, but let's find something else we can do that'll be enjoyable, fun, exciting. Maybe it's going to the casino and spending time down there. Maybe it's just simply walking into town, going to the beach, going to a bar. I had a situation that happened on St. Thomas where there's a lot of problems in the Virgin Islands, evidently, with me, where we were supposed to go to St. John and I couldn't get a taxi and I got so frustrated. So my wife was like, let's just go to the bar and have a couple of drinks. And you know what? It wasn't a great day. It wasn't like, wow, that was like the best day ever, but it did make it better. We salvaged it. So be flexible. Don't sweat the small things, and just understand that you can't control everything about your cruise no matter how much you plan it out, but it's also not the end of the day. Number three, drink packages. I think drink packages make more sense with the more friends that you have. So I have bought the drink package many times, and I have not bought the drink package many times. And I think really where I'm at on it is there is absolutely the potential for value with the drink package, whether it's the refreshment package, the deluxe beverage package. I almost always buy the deluxe beverage package when I buy a drink package. That's the one that includes alcohol. And I will tell you that I get far more value out of it by simply when I have more friends on board. If it's just my family and I, it's great. I'll probably never get the drink package because while, we love each other and we like spending time together, we're not like, there's a different ambiance, a different kind of culture when you're with friends. I think I'm more of a social drinker in that way. And so I think the drink package can make sense, but it makes a lot more sense when you have friends on board. Recently, this year, 2025, has been the year of the drink package sale. I mean, I have never seen such low prices since like 2019. It's really impressive, but it requires obviously a good sale. And then there have been situations where even when we got sailed by ourselves and the price has been like less than $50 or less than $60 a day, where you can say, okay, well, if you basically, there's a lot of ways to make the drink package worth financially, but, if you buy 4 or 5 cocktails a day, which sounds like a lot, but in reality, it's not that much. I mean, you have a Bloody Mary in the morning, you have 2 beers or drinks by the pool, 2 more at dinner or in the evening, and you're pretty much broken even on that. Like, that math makes a lot of sense. Obviously, it's a little different on a port day, but it makes, if I have friends on board, and maybe more than one, I think the drink package does make sense from that perspective. Next on my list here is, I think Perfect Day CocoCay is probably the best place you can visit on any cruise. I mean, I've been to a lot of places all over the world, and at the end of the day, in terms of just like pure satisfaction, like, hey, let's have a great day ashore, I mean, it's hard to go wrong with Perfect Day. I mean, I have a great day in Juneau or San Juan, Puerto Rico, or probably almost anywhere in Norway because those offer like inherently, I think, amazing experiences. But what I'm talking about is like, I think what most people look for is probably like a beach day or that kind of like relaxing kind of day. And Perfect Day, I think, really is. I mean, I know there's a lot of marketing behind it and a lot of hype behind it as well. I think the hype is actually well deserved. I mean, Royal Caribbean really made a, like an amazing product with that. I just remember the old days of old CocoCay before it became Perfect Day, and I really hated it. I'm sure there's some ancient podcasts here in which I talked about how I didn't really like CocoCay and I much preferred Labadee, the tender ride, the lack of anything to do. I really think it has gotten substantially better from obviously that, but it has become, I think, the de facto standard for what any cruise line is looking for their beach day, and for good reason. With Perfect Day, the biggest thing for me is the variety of what you have there. There's a lot of different beaches. There's a pool. There are upcharge places you can go to. There's plenty of included food. There's food that costs extra. I like how much variety is there. Sometimes you're in the mood for like party. Sometimes you just want to take a nap. Sometimes you want to do the family thing. I like that. There's a lot for kids to do. There's the water park. You can spend more. I mean, it really is a home run, and it's hard to go wrong with that. So I really do think Perfect Day is probably, like, all things being equal, or at least as much equal as they can be. If you have a cruise that goes there, you're probably going to have a really good time. But next on my list, if you had to pick somewhere, though, that wasn't Perfect Day, like, Matt, please give me another recommendation for somewhere that is not a manufactured day. Fine, fair enough. Alaska should be a must-do as well. As I said earlier, I've been to a lot of places, but Alaska is one that really captured my heart. It is beautiful. It is majestic. It is amazing. And you'll hear me say this. And then if you haven't been there yet, when you see it in person, because photos and videos do not do it justice, when you're there and you see the grandeur of it all, I think then it kind of like, it finally hits you. You're like, oh, wow, okay, now I get it. Now I understand what everyone was talking about. It really is a beautiful place on this planet. And going there and even going to the same places, going to Mendenhall Glacier Park, which I've been to every single time I've been to Alaska, never gets old because I'm just astonished by it. It's absolutely beautiful. I love the food. The people are really nice. I think it's a great place to take your family. I think that may have actually endeared me even more to Alaska because when we first went there, my kids were fairly young. And even now, I mean, they complain about everything, so I don't really take any of their complaints with with any kind of real sense of importance. But I will say that I do think when we get there, they kind of are like, okay, cool, like we get it. It's pretty, it's nice, and they do enjoy it on a level there. So, and kind of similar to Perfect Day in the sense that there is a lot to do in Alaska. Obviously, every port is different, but you can go see natural sights, you can go shopping, you can go eating, you can go fishing, you can go whale watching, you can see other animals on there. I think it's incredible, and considering that it's part of the U.S., it's incredible to see the variety of what's there and how different it is from the rest of the country. Shifting gears back to saving you money, sort of, kind of. I really think right now the best value in cruising is probably the Royal Caribbean Casino, provided you're flexible and you have a lot of self-control. For many years, I avoided the casino on Royal Caribbean. I remember talking to some friends who were big gamblers, but they seemed like more gamblers first. And like that was like their main focus. Like almost like they were going on a cruise, yeah, but they like to gamble so much, like that was their primary thing. So I really didn't give that much stock. I was like, okay, they're just gamblers. But the more people I talked to who were more casual players and talked up the value of the casino, I gave it a try. And it really is, like right now, today, at the recording of this podcast, the best value. What I mean by that is, again, if you have some self control and a little bit of money to spend that you're willing to lose, the benefits that you can get from the casino are truly incredible. I mean, they give away a lot of free cruises. There's a little bit of like magic to it. It's not quite at like formulaic. Royal Caribbean kind of has an algorithm almost to it, but the amount of offers you can get by simply, when you go on a Royal Caribbean cruise, playing about 200 to 300 points per sailing at the very least, just to keep your account quote unquote active. I'm astonished by how many points and how many offers rather you get for your play that we've gotten, both digital offers via the Royal Caribbean website and then mailers, like things in the mail that come from Royal Caribbean offering us free cruises. Again, it requires a fair amount of self-control. You have to be flexible because the dates are always, very selective. They'll offer you sailings on certain ships on certain dates. You know, it may or may not work with your schedule. So obviously with school age kids, that can be a challenge. But if I was retired or my kids were at least out of school and I wasn't beholden to the school calendar, my goodness, the world would be my oyster because I'd be able to go on, rando cruises in September and January and May and, all these times when, school's in session, and these are oftentimes when these free sailings are there. But if you play your cards right, no pun intended, but I guess that makes sense, I think you can find a really good value in the casino. Again, you need to do your homework on this. Don't just simply go to the casino and drop $50. I mean, you're going to need to spend more than that probably. So you need to be flexible. You need to have a fair amount of disposable cash on you. Not a lot. I mean, we're talking about, depends how often you cruise, obviously. But, coming into it with a couple $100 at the very least to gamble, and probably say $1,000 per sailing would be a good number, at least to start with. But it doesn't have to be that much. It kind of depends on your luck, also how much money you win. But I'm really impressed by it. It's the reason why we primarily go to the casino these days, is just to keep that going. Next up on my list is specialty dining or free food. Which one do I want? And the answer, I think, is, I spent a lot of time thinking about this. It really depends on the ship, but I like both for different reasons. Sometimes I just like the Windjammer buffet, especially on their newer ships, like the Quantum class ships and the Windjammer. Heck yeah, sign me up for that every day. It's easy, it's quick, there's a great variety of food. The cooking stations are amazing. Even the main dining room. I love the main dining room because I like having waiters that we get to know, especially if you can get a waiter that has a personality. Most of them do, some of them don't, but most of them do. And when you get a really fun waiter who gets to know you and your family, it's a great way to cruise. I mean, that brings me back to my early days of sailing, which, by the way, I had to look it up. My first cruise was on Explorer of the Seas. I knew that. And then I went on Oasis of the Seas. But I was curious, like, what was the first cruise I actually paid for? Because back on Explorer of the Seas, I think I was in college, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's where I was on that one. And then we had a cruise on Oasis, and still, I was out of college. My parents paid for it. Hey, I'm not complaining about that. I had it my honeymoon. Same thing. It was a gift. So I think my first cruise I paid for was either Freedom of the Seas or Jewel of the Seas. I'm not entirely certain at this point. But, I going back to those early cruises, having dinner with everybody in the main dining room was a must do. I mean, it was just it was like Sunday dinner at home. It was like we all gathered around the table, no matter what we did otherwise during the day, dinner, meet up at whatever time it was, 5:30, 6 o'clock for dinner in the main dining room, talk about the day, share stories, whatever. It was really like the it was the best of times. It wasn't the worst times. It was just like it's one of those things that I think endeared me to cruising early on. And so when I do it today, I still love that. That being said, I'm not opposed to specialty dining. I love variety of food, and sometimes I'm in the mood for sushi or steak or Italian. And I think that it's less about people get hung up on the food quality, like, oh, the food quality is so much better, especially dining. I mean, yeah, it is. The steak you're getting at Chops Grill is going to be certainly better than the steak you're getting in the main dining room. There's no doubt about it, quality wise. That being said, I don't know that matters that much as matters like when you're in the mood for something different. And that's why sometimes I'll go to like Playmakers because you know what? I'm just in the mood for like French fries and like good French fries and onion rings and nachos and a really good burger, greasy burger that someone else made. Like, I mean, there's an argument, just like the cabins earlier, we're talking about this. There is an argument to pick specialty dining. There's an argument to pick free food, but it depends on the ship. When I've been on the Icon class ships, and I purposely did this on Star of the Seas, I didn't go to any specialty dining. I just did the free stuff because there's an impressive amount of really good free food on board. But when I was on Oasis recently, I was pretty disappointed with the free food. I mean, the Windjammer was just overcrowded. I couldn't deal with it. And Solarium Bistro was kind of meh. So, you know, on that ship, I would rely more heavily on specialty dining. And again, this goes different ways depending on the ship, depending on the itinerary, and whom you're sailing with. But if you're sitting there saying, should I get specialty dining or free? The answer is truly is both. I mean, you really should rely on free food and then sprinkle in the specialty dining, right? So maybe you add like, ideally on a 7-night cruise, I would say like a 3-night dining package is probably the sweet spot for how much specialty dining you should do. It gives you enough of a break from the main dining room, or the Windjammer for that matter, but you still get to enjoy the main dining room in the Windjammer because there's value there. And I think you are quote unquote paying for it, but it's more that I think there's enough that they serve that you can enjoy. And if you cherry pick your days right, I think it can really work out. Also on my list, I like the idea of dressing up on a cruise, but I rarely do it anymore. I was kind of thinking about what are things I don't do anymore on a cruise I used to do. Early on those early cruises, we used to get dressed up all the time. I'm pretty sure, like early on when I first started cruising the first couple of years, I mean, I probably had 3 outfits a day. Something to wear in the morning, afternoon, something to wear for the evening, and then actually the 3, it would only be 2. The 3 would be if I did a shore excursion. It'd be like shore excursion clothes, come back to the ship, something else to wear, and then, your dinner clothes. And I've kind of gone away from that. And I think it's less that it's not that I think that it's bad. I think I like the idea of dressing up. And I think that people that do that are always like, oh, that's really cute that they do that. I think it's a fun idea. I've done it enough that it's kind of like, I don't know, is it passe? Been there, done that? I'm not sure. Like, I just done it enough times that it's kind of worn off. So like, I rarely will wear a tie. I will bring a collared shirt and a jacket and a nice pair of slacks, but I really don't bring my suit anymore. And I'm trying to remember the last time I actually wore a tie, probably to like Empire Supper Club. But the point is that I do like the idea. I'm not somebody who says we shouldn't have dressing up or formal night. I like the idea of formal night. I like people getting dressed up. I do now and then enjoy doing it myself, but I definitely dress up much less than I used to. And lastly, friends make cruising better. Without a shadow of a doubt, everything is better with friends. And there's a truth to this, and there's a shameless plug, and that'll be coming in a little bit. The truth is, we have a better time with friends. One of the best things that has come out of cruising on Royal Caribbean is we've made a number of friends on board the ships that have become friends that we associate with off the ship. Some people are just people we see on the ship, but regardless, when you cruise with friends, we have a better time. I talked a little bit about this with the drink package, but it goes beyond alcohol. What I mean by this is when there are friendly faces on board that you know, and there are friendly faces on board, friends that you not only have as adults, like me and my wife, but also friends for the kids, it makes the whole experience better for everybody involved. We have a more common bond with people to talk to, people to hang out with. It adds a different dimension to it. And so I'd really recommend anybody who cruises, whether you've done a couple or a lot, invite family and friends. Even if you don't want to hang out with them in the real world, like you say, well, your sibling has a family, right? Maybe you see them a lot or you don't see them a lot, but invite them on a cruise. It's a great way to hang out with them without necessarily like spending all the time. Like if you guys all did an Airbnb somewhere, you're all going to be sitting around, at the same place doing the same thing. On a cruise, you get to do things together, like a shore excursion or dinner, in the main dining room, but you also have time apart. And I love that idea. And so cruising definitely makes cruising with friends makes things better. And here's the shameless plug. We do actually 2 group cruises a year here at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. If you want to join us for one, basically it's a regular Royal Caribbean cruise in which I say, this ship, this sailing, this is the one that's a group cruise. And it's an opportunity to sail with people that you've never met before, but you know what? You all have something in common. We all love Royal Caribbean. You probably read RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com or listen to this podcast. And so you have that at least a starting point. And you'd be, I think, surprised if you haven't done one before, how fun these are, because it's a great group of folks. We have a lot of fun. We organize different events, and it really does, even though it's a shameless plug, and I'm not pretending it's not, but in my heart of hearts, I do believe that it makes cruising better. It's better with friends, and I enjoy that. And I think that it's a lesson that we learned over the years, especially when my kids started getting a little bit older, and it became like, oh, who are we cruising with? And at first it was because they wanted to know if they had any friends on board. And that grew into, not only do they have any friends on board, do we have any friends on board? Because it did make a difference. And I love that. And that's become a major factor in if we book cruise A or cruise B. And I think for anybody listening, if you haven't cruised with friends and family yet, you really should give it a try. Okay, friends, time to answer listener emails. It's the part of the episode where I answer the emails you sent me about Royal Caribbean. And, of course, you can always email me your questions. Matt at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. Matt, M-A-T-T, at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. And please do what Jane just did for the email I'm about to read, which is put in the subject line for the podcast, something like that. Sometimes people email me, like, rando questions and whatever. But if it's for the podcast, I'll put it in a special folder and make sure we answer it right over here. So our first email is from the aforementioned Jane. Hi, Matt. We're booked for April on Icon of the Seas. This will be our first time on the ship, and we're looking forward to some new experiences. We're thinking about trying the Empire Supper Club, but the biggest concern is price and what to wear. I'm easy and just wear a formal dress. However, wondering if the husband needs a full-on suit, or is a sports coat and khakis okay? You just need a sports coat, just a jacket. It could jacket and jeans, jacket and khakis, totally fine. Jane writes, also, we're looking at booking a 3-night dining package and eating the Windjammer the other night. Is it worth it to book the supper club in that package? And can we pre-book nights, or should we book the club ahead of time and do the 3-night package separate? Wondering if the upcharge will cost us more than the value of the package. Thanks for any advice you can give. The answer to your question is, now you can book with the dining package your restaurants in advance, and I would recommend actually doing that and pick the Empire Supper Club. I mean, you could do both. You could do the Empire Supper Club on its own and then use the 3-night dining pack or something else. You'll get a slight discount. You'll still pay an upcharge for it. I mean, I'd argue this, Jane. I really like the Empire Supper Club. I think it's worth the money whether you have a dining package or not. So really, this boils down to, do you want to have special dining for 3 nights or 4 nights? And that's kind of the answer to your question right there. Our next email is from Craig T. Longtime listener, first-time emailer. Thank you for all the podcast episodes over the years. They've been very helpful, enjoyable, and the information provided has greatly improved our cruise experience. On episode 560, you answered a question about doing a port no-show when a passenger on the reservation isn't able to make the cruise, and rebooking would significantly increase the price. I have a follow-up question. My understanding from that episode is that if I book a room for myself and my wife, then my wife is a no-show, the port fees and taxes are refunded, but not her cruise fare. Thus, at this point, I would essentially be a solo traveler who paid the equivalent of a solo supplement. As such, would I then receive double Crown Anchor points for that sailing? Thanks for all you do. Good question, Chris. Royal Caribbean has been cagey on this. Officially, the official policy, Chris, is no. You would not receive double Crown Anchor points. That changed a little while ago. It used to be always the case. However, Chris, I can tell you from experience, I have done this exact thing recently, and my wife was booked on it. She no-showed. I still got double points. But on other sailings, I have not gotten double points. And so it's like kind of a mixed bag. If you truly do care about getting the double points, then obviously don't book the fake second person. In a lot of cases, the pricing is not as different as it used to be. In some cases, I found like significant price changes if you have a fake second person or not. But these days, there's less of it, so price them both out, obviously. But if you're chasing status, you're like, Matt, I really want to get to, Diamond as an example, then I would say, just to be safe, book it solo to, ensure with 100% certainty you'll get those points. If you're less concerned about it, like maybe you have like, I'm laughing, but it's something objective. Like you have 150 points, right? And you're like, all right, well, I've got my points for a while. I'm trying to, I'll never get to Pinnacle anytime soon. Let me just, earn my points as I see fit. Well, okay, then maybe you could roll the dice on it. Our next email is from Kevin from Wheatfield, New York. Good morning, Matt. Curious how the current U.S. military buildup in Southern Caribbean and cruises to the ABC Islands might be impacted, and how, or even if, cruise insurers would cover any unforeseen circumstances that might arise. These islands are very close to Venezuela. We went to Labadee on Oasis this past March. I'd love to go back. Felt Royal Caribbean had the safety bar covered. The pushy sales guy, on the other hand. Obviously, you wrote this email not that long ago, but I think, generally speaking, it's a different country. It's not, even though it's near Venezuela, it's not Venezuela. Actually, those islands are owned by the Dutch, so I really don't think it'll be much of an issue. I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, I generally don't worry about geopolitical issues until Royal Caribbean decides I should worry about them and they don't go there. So, similar to Labadee, if there's a reason to believe that it would not be in their interest to send ships in that vicinity, then they won't. You're right that they're nearby, but hopefully, and it seems like cooler heads have prevailed. I feel like there's, I haven't read much about that lately, but when it comes to general, I'll just put this question, Kevin, as kind of a general thing. You have a cruise booked. It's either, if you're going to, like if your cruise was going to Venezuela, different story. But if you're going to a cruise that's nearby, that's not as much of an issue. I remember in many years we've seen this with Turkey, where there are Greek Isle cruises they're supposed to visit Turkey, and depending on if Turkey's experiencing geopolitical issues, then those cruises for that year maybe don't visit Greece, they just stay or don't visit Turkey, they stay in Greece, and other years they go there. It's just kind of got to read the temperature, take the temperature rather, I should say, at the time. So there you go. And our last question is coming to us from Ian, aka Tukes Vegas. Hey Matt, thanks again for all you do. Makes it a lot more fun between trips. My wife and I are going on Explorer this season, May of 2026, 9 nights out of Barcelona. Our first trip to Europe. We always love the main dining room and formal nights. We're thinking this time, though, because of the wanting local food, that our big meal, quote unquote, will be local food in ports for lunch and then the Windjammer for dinner. We want to be able to take in the ports as much as possible, so not making dinners in the dining room is our plan. We'll miss the relationships we enjoy with our waitstaff. Thoughts on this plan? Finding a good local food in port, not packing any formal wear. Should we do anything different gratuity-wise, and anything else that'd be helpful? We're taking your advice as far as arriving 3 nights early to enjoy Barcelona, and that will help with the jet lag. Also, our first trip as diamonds as well. Ian, great approach, quite frankly. So a couple things come to mind. Number one is look at your times in port. This, first of all, on the surface, I love this idea. I think it makes a lot of sense. And in a lot of cases, even if you're, when you're in port, you're spending a lot of time in port walking around, you're going to come back to that ship tired. And so like the idea of like, okay, let's all take showers, get dressed, go to that seems like it's a bridge too far. So from that perspective, I think that makes sense. But I'm saying look at the times, because you'd be surprised, actually, it surprised me anyway. The ship would usually, like the all aboard time, was like, 4 or 5 o'clock most times. Even if it's 6 o'clock, you're going to be back in time for dinner. Now, certainly that doesn't mean you can't do the the Windjammer, like you're saying, because you'll be back, because you're a responsible person. You'll be back on the ship by like, 3:30, 4 o'clock, something like that. Giving you plenty of time to prepare for the dining rooms. If you're worried that you won't have time in there, that probably is the case, unless you have some really late nights, planned there, which would be great if it was. So that's number one. Number two, though, to your point, that's a really good idea. Food in Europe is incredible. And since you're on Explorer at Barcelona, you're doing a Mediterranean, I mean, listen, I'm all for the included food and the value it provides, but if you can get, real authentic Italian food in Italy, yeah, I'm going to eat in Italy. It costs you money, so it costs you a lot, in fact, because Europe in general, everything costs more, and food is definitely expensive there. But I would not fault you one bit. That's a great idea. Otherwise, not packing formal wear, sure, that makes it easier also because you're going to Europe, so you're going to have to fly there. Luggage, extra costs, right? Just even once you're there, literally lugging your luggage around. If not packing formal clothes means you can use a smaller suitcase, heck yes, this is a great idea. You should definitely do it. As for gratuity, I always just leave the auto gratuity on, no matter how many times or if at all I dine in the dining room. The gratuity goes to other people behind the house. I think the crew members work really hard anyway. I think they deserve it. So I just leave the auto gratuity alone. And obviously, I don't go down to the dining room and, you might not tip anybody if you're going there for a day or two beyond the auto gratuity. But I just leave it that way. And also, one more thing, Ian, going back to something I talked about earlier in this episode, you have this plan in your head. Okay, we're going to make lunches the de facto thing. Don't let that stop you from going to the dining room anyway. Like, maybe there's one particular day where you really don't find a lot of great food in the particular port. I'm not sure which one. I can't give you a good example off the top of my head, but, maybe do a short excursion that involves hiking and, all you ate was like protein bars, or you stop for like a sandwich. Nothing really like, resonates. And you get back to the ship at 2 o'clock. There's enough time for a nap. Okay, cool. And now you can make dinner. Don't just say, well, I said we're not going to the dining room on principle. We're going to do a Windjammer. Go to the dining room, You don't have to have that formal of a clothing. As long as you're wearing, pack one pair of jeans, you'll be fine. And that'll cover your bases on that. So I just want to keep that door open for you. But I love your idea in general. All right, thanks to Ian for this question. And thanks to everybody for listening to this episode of the Royal Caribbean Blog Podcast. If I can answer your emails, you can always email me, Matt, M-A-T-T, at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, Matt at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. Until next time, I'm Matt. We'll talk again real soon.